Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Patty Valenzuela podcast. So glad to be with you guys once again. I want to speak to you out of the topic of doing relationships right. And this would probably be part 2, part 3. We've been talking about soul ties. We've been talking about last podcast on how to do relationships right. And I think it's so key because if we're getting ready to go and prepare ourselves for success, we always have to analyze our relationships. We have to prune the ones that need to be pruned. We need to assess, we need to review, we need to analyze, we need to look at our relationships and understand that it is through relationships that God will bless us, but it is also through relationships that the enemy would want to destroy us. So in this podcast, I'd like to give you some revelation, insight on why do we do relationships? Why is it so important? And I spoke to you last week. If you didn't watch it, I really recommend that you go back and watch how to do relationships correctly, because I said to you that we are all doors, and when you look at your life from the aspect of I am a door, what are people going to access when they come through this door? When we go into your life, what are people going to access in your life? And we have to be very healed. And I spoke to you about that a little bit last week on being healed and not being codependent, because we have to understand that when we do relationships, we actually do relationships based on how we see ourselves. We actually do relationships based on what's going on the inside of us. And so we become magnets to what's inside of us. So if the Bible pretty much talks about it like this: like spirits attract like spirits. So we will know what kind of relationships we are actually going to attract, what kind of relationships we are going to have based on what's going on the inside of our hearts. And so, if somebody, let's say, battles low self-esteem and insecurity inside of their hearts, they're probably going to attract a certain kind of people. And so we become magnets to what's inside of us. So we want to make sure that we are so whole, complete, lacking nothing, that we are attracting the right kind of people, because God really blesses us through relationships. So the friends that we choose are determined by what's going on inside of us. The friends that we choose are going to be determined by how we even see ourselves. And so we don't want to attract the wrong thing. We want to make sure that we become doors that are accessing and are accessed through healthy, whole relationships. And so relationships are really important, but I kind of want to look at you for a moment and let's analyze ourselves for just a moment. Who are we connected to? That's probably a question I'd like to ask you today. Who are you connected to? Let's evaluate that. Why are you connected to that kind of person? Who are you really connected to? So researchers have shown something, and researchers have actually shown that how we feel, how we thrive, and how we perform in life. I'm going to say it again. How we perform in life, how we thrive in life. Everything about our lives, even how we feel, will fall upon one factor. Your success will fall upon one factor. Your performance and how you perform in life, in your ministry, as a leader, or whatever you do in life, will actually fall upon one factor. And researchers have found that that one thing is who you are connected to. So your performance is determined by who you're connected to. How you thrive in life is actually determined and connected to who you are connected to. So we can say it like this: there is power in who you're connected to. There is power in who you're connected to. As far as how you thrive in life, there's power in that. So it leads me to ask you that question: who are you connected to? I'm going to go a little bit further, because power can be good and power can be bad. There's good power and then there is bad power. So power can be used for good, and then there's power that can be used for bad. So what kind of power are other people bringing to your life? Because there's good power and then there is bad power. And that has everything to do with how we are doing relationships. So relationships, the ones that you are connected to, are they bringing good power? Are they good sources of good power, or are they bad sources of bad power? So how you thrive, how you move forward, how you're healed or on the road to healing has everything to do with the quality of our relationship. So we need to really, really analyze that. Who are you connected to? Are they trustworthy? Are they people that really are not trustworthy? Now, I'm going to give you an example, and I'd like you to look at your life this way. I want you to picture a circle, a closed circle. So let's say you're in the middle of that circle. And then outside of that closed circle is another circle, okay? So there's this circle, and then outside of that is another circle. And then outside of that circle, there's a third circle, okay? And then outside of that circle, there's another circle. Well, that's kind of how we do life. There's a closed circle in your life. And we have to analyze those relationships, who you're connected to, the relationships that you're closest to. The ones that are producing fruit in your life is the ones that are closest to you. Now, let me say it like this. The most fruitful people in life do what I'm about to show you. The ones that perform the highest with high performance are the ones that are actually living their lives by how I'm about to teach you. They design their circles on purpose. So people with high performance, people that succeed the most, actually David in the Bible operated this way. People who thrive in life operate their lives in such a way where they spend all their time, they spend all their energy, they spend their resources, they spend their money, they pour out all of their life in the healthy ones, in that inner circle. They say that human capacities has about a capacity, or our capacity as humans, we have a capacity of about 150 people. That's our capacity. They say, researchers show that you and I have a capacity to do relationships with up to about 150 people. So 150 people, we have the capacity to know a little bit about them, to be in communication with them, to be in connected to, but that's probably our biggest capacity. So hear what I'm going to say to you, because I'm going to help you do relationships right, is the circle in your life, the one that's you're closest to. Then there's an outer circle, then there's another outer circle. Are each people in your life, the circles, the people you're most connected to, are they getting the right time in your life? Are they getting the right resources in your life? Are they getting the right amount of time in your life? Some of you, maybe the ones on the outside of your circle that you don't spend a lot of time with, probably need to be evaluated, because there's probably people in that circle that you need to start bringing into your inner circle. Because this is how high performance people live. This is how successful people live. Who you're connected to will show how you're going to thrive, the performance level in your life. There's some of you that are watching me, and you're leaders, and you are leaders, and you are thriving leaders, or could be thriving leaders, but you're not doing relationships right, because the people that should be in your inner circle are actually in your outer circle. So that's something that you need to look at in your life, because if God is going to bless you and take you to the next in your life, then you really need to evaluate who you're really doing life with. Who is the inner core, the inner circle, the people that get the best of you, the people that know you the best, the people that you are connected to the most, the inner circle. Those are the important ones. Now, let me give you an example like this. Let's say you want to be free from addiction. You want to be free from any addiction. So probably if you're bound to an addiction, let's say addiction to drinking, or you have a drinking problem, or you have an addiction to a marijuana, or you have an addiction to smoking, your inner circle are probably people that drink, or they're probably people that sell drugs. They're probably people that smokers. So those are the ones that are in your inner circle. Now, if you're going to be free and you want to thrive and you want to come out of that and you don't want to be that person anymore, you're going to have to change that inner circle. That means that your inner circle is going to have to be people that are sober. That means that your inner circle is going to have to be people that are really on fire and passionate for God. That means that your inner circle probably have to be people that are sober, that are in sobriety, and they're pastors. They're your people that are going to help you, close friends that are now you're on your journey to now being free. So that means that you're going to have to put order to your relationships. Some of you that are listening to me right now, Perhaps, well, I'm not bound to anything, Apostle. I'm not bound to anything. I'm not addicted to anything. No, but you have to organize your relationships, because if we're going to thrive and if we're going to go to the next in our lives, we're going to probably have to bring in these people closer to us, because they're living something that we need in our lives. We haven't gotten to where we need to get to, and these people are the source. And I'm gonna have to invest energy. I'm gonna have to invest time in these relationships. How maybe these people that are like in my second circle, they're the ones that are like, oh man, they're passionate for God. Oh man, they're thriving. Oh man, they're moving. Oh man, they're expanding. Oh man, they're the intercessor that I need to be. Oh man, they are thriving, and so I need to bring them into this inner circle. Why? Because they're carrying something that I'm needing. So some of you perhaps are not addicted to something, but you are not investing your time correctly. You are not investing your energy correctly. And then we have this excuse, well, I don't want to bug them. Well, this isn't about bugging anybody. This is about you thriving. And God didn't teach us to do relationships by, can you imagine Peter going, well, I don't want to really bug Jesus. Can you imagine, Bartholomew or Thomas going, well, you know what? The master's busy. Jesus never did relationships like that. We find that Jesus sat with the 12. Jesus poured into the 12. There's some of you that are part of the 12, and you don't want to bug your inner circle. Well, you've got a wrong mindset. And if you're going to thrive in the next season, you're going to have to organize your relationships correctly. This isn't about bugging somebody. This is about thriving. This is about needing what you're needing to get to the next in your life. Jesus taught us. He was the best example about relationships. He taught us how to do relationships right. So in your inner circle, there are people that have certain characteristics that you're going to need. Some of you keep hanging around the same kind of circle and you get nowhere. You get nowhere because your inner circle is just as bound as you are. And if we're going to get somewhere, we're going to have to break our systems, our ways of being and doing. We're going to have to analyze, how am I doing relationships? Am I even doing them godly way? Well, the perfect example is David. David teaches us in Psalm 101 how to do relationships. He tells us in Psalm 101 who was part of his inner circle and who was not a part of his inner circle. Because there's only certain people that qualify for our inner circle. You know that? There are certain people that should only qualify to get the best of us. Who's getting the best of you? Who's getting the best of you? Is it a wrong relationship? Are you disorganized in your relationships? Are you disorganized with how you do relationships? Who's getting the best of you? And are those relationships worthy of your time? Are those relationships really worthy of investment? Hey, listen, my inner circle, it's got to be who gets the best of me? Who gets the better of me? It's going to have to be people that qualify for that. It's going to have to be people. What David told me. Can we read it? Psalm 101. And I'm going to read it to you. It says, I will sing of your love and justice, Lord. I will praise you with songs. He said, I will be careful to live a blameless life. Look what he tells me, and he's telling you. I'm going to be careful that I don't live just a careless life. I'm going to live a life that is worthy of the call, that is blameless, meaning a good life, a godly life. He said, when will you come to help me? I will lead a life of integrity. So he's already telling us and introducing to us what kind of life he wants to live. So the question I would ask you is, what kind of life do you want to live? Because we can hope and wish all day. Well, I want a great life. I want a successful life. I want to thrive, and I want a godly life, and I want to live this life with integrity. Okay, then examine your inner circle. Because you may say one thing, but your inner circle is another thing. And then David says, I will refuse to look at anything vile and vulgar. I hate all who deal crookedly. So he's already telling me his inner circle. He said, I'm not going to allow anybody crooked in my inner circle. He says, I detest them. He said, anything that is vile, anything that has mixture, anything that is vulgar, anything that is perverse. perversion, anything that is twisted. David's already giving me the characteristics of his inner circle. He said, I will have nothing to do with them. I will reject perverse ideas. Perverse ideas. He said, anything that's coming to me, trying to give me perverse ideas. And then look what he says, and I will stay away from evil. Every form of evil. I will not tolerate people who slander their neighbors. He's telling me something about his inner circle. He's saying, I'm not going to allow in my inner circle certain characteristics. David begins to describe, and I would dare say, that this kind of has a characteristic of a narcissist. In other words, he's saying, narcissistic people, they cannot come into my inner circle. He's saying, I'm not going to even be around people that look down on me or look down on others, that are judgmental, that are unfaithful, that are liars, that are perverted, that say one thing and then do another. Look what he's telling us. He says, I will reject those that have perversion. You know what perversion means? Those that twist. Twisted love. I will not allow, David says, anybody that has twisted love, that is perverse. They say they want to help you, but they really have manipulation behind. They say, oh yeah, I want to help you. Have you ever met somebody like that? Because I have. And they say, we're going to help you and we want to help you. But in reality, they have a manipulation on the inside and it's really all about them and it's really not to help you. Well, David says, I'm going to be careful who I allow in my inner circle. And then he said, I will not tolerate people who slander their neighbors. I will not endure conceit and pride. So he's saying my inner circle are people that don't slander. They don't talk about other people. Hear me. If in your inner circle, there are people that talk about other people with you, they're probably talking about you too. And David says, I don't allow that in my inner circle. Who's got the best of you? Who gets the best of you? Ask yourself that question. And then he said, I don't have in my inner circle conceited people. People that think that are greater, people that think that they're higher, prideful, arrogance. He says, I can't have that in my circle. And then he said, I will search for faithful people to be my companions. That's what he said. I'm going to look for faithful people. I'm going to look for people who are faithful in God. People who are loyal in God, who are above reproach. He said, those are going to be my companions. Those I will allow. Look what he says, will be allowed to serve me. I will not allow deceivers to serve in my house. And liars will not stay in my presence. So he automatically tells me, he said, if you're deceiving me and you're lying to me, you cannot come into my inner circle. In other words, hear what I'm going to say to you. Don't get offended if certain people don't allow you to come into their circle. You have to analyze you. Are they, listen, if you have a tendency to lie and somebody's not letting you in to their inner circle, you have to analyze you. Come on, it's time to get real with ourselves. If we're going to do relationships right, then we've got to take an inventory look at ourselves. Are we liars? Are we deceivers? Do we put on a front? Do we really put a front for other people? And then David says, my daily task will be to ferret out the wicked. So he says, I'm going to, think about this, what he's saying. I'm going to filter out the wicked. I'm going to filter you out. And I'm going to put you in my third circle. I'm not going to cast you out, put you in my third circle. You don't get the best of me. I know that you're a deceiver. I know that you're a liar, and I'm going to put you right here. It's time to organize our relationships. There are some people in your life that you're not letting them get the best of you. You're not allowing them to get the best of your time, your resources. When was the last time you spent conversation with somebody that you know has something that God is telling you you're needing? But yet you're not giving them the quality time. You're avoiding them. You only see them occasionally. Is it a pastor? Is it a leader? Is it somebody that's going to help you move forward? And they're just not getting the best of you. It's time to organize our relationships. David says, I'm going to nourish the kind of relationships that will always bring out the best in me. I'm going to build. I'm going to guard. I'm going to invest. I'm going to put time and I'm going to put energy. This is what he's saying. I know how to do relationships. And the ones that get my time, the ones that I'm going to build, there's some of you that there are people in your life and you've got them on the second circle. And they're there and you occasionally talk to them, but you're not building on that relationship. And God's convicting you through this podcast. And God is saying it's time to build relationships, right? It's time to build. If we are going to have high performance in all the things and the giftings that God has given us in this earth and in this lifetime, the only way to do it is to build relationships right. Because remember, when God's going to bless you and do something in your life, it's going to be through a relationship. Some of you have been delayed because you're doing relationships wrong. Some of you have not stepped into the fullness of what God has for you because you're not doing relationships right. So you know whose fault that is? Yours. You're delaying your own life all because you've been doing relationships wrong. Maybe I'm talking to a man. Maybe I'm talking to a woman. Listen, in order for our lives to be built and edified correctly, we're going to have to do relationships right. Let me say, and I'm going to end with this. I said this to a person once, and I thought this was pretty much describing a lot of my life. See, in our lives, we can get to a place quicker by the relationships that we have. Your relationships are everything. The kind of relationships that you invest in, that you build on, have everything to do with how quickly you're going to get to your next. Hear what I'm going to tell you. When I was growing up, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have somebody that was going to guide me in the right direction. Although I had mentors, and although I had good people in my life, I did. I had the people that were in my life that came into my life to try to help me, if you will. Maybe they didn't reach the capacity that they could have. So I find my life like this. Let me explain it to you. So let's say this is my destination, and I feel like I'm arriving to certain areas in my life because we've never arrived and we'll never arrive until the coming of Jesus, nor am I claiming that I've got it all together. We're still growing, I'm still learning, and I will continue to learn and be discipled till Jesus comes for me. But what I'm trying to say is that I think that I would have gotten quicker to a certain place, to certain areas, to certain characteristics in my life, had I had somebody that would have told me the do's and don'ts of ministry. So I feel like this, that I'm finally getting to an area where I'm understanding the kingdom better. I'm understanding on how to be and the characteristics that are required to do ministry the right way, in the right direction. So I feel like I'm kind of getting there, if you will. And so here's my life, and I'm finally arriving there. But I can tell you, when one person had asked me, Apostle, how'd you get there? Well, it took me a lot of years. And I did this in my life. And it was like this road and this road and this road. And then I finally got here. And I think to myself, if somebody would have spoken into my life, this is how you do family. This is how you do marriage. This is how you do ministry. And I wouldn't have done all of this. I would have probably arrived a lot quicker. Some of you, God has placed people in your life to teach you the direction that we've paved a way. You know, I've paved a way. We've paved a way. We're now saying to you all, the next generation, don't do it that way. That's the wrong road. Why do you want to take that road? Why do you wind up in a dead end? So the people that go before you are really a voice for you to say that's not the road. That is not the road to success. That is not success. So if you listen to your life and look at your relationships, there are voices in your life you're not investing in. There are voices in your life that you're not spending time with. And you know what's happening to you? You're just doing this. Why would you want to do that? If I think back, and I'm not bitter about it, I don't question God about it. It is what it is. Sometimes people didn't teach us right. But you know what? God is so merciful that we technically are really not delayed. I believe this podcast is for somebody that is saying, I'm doing relationships wrong. I'm going to have to put it in order. Some of you are going to have to filter out some that are in your inner circle. Filter it out. I'm not talking about you mentoring somebody. I'm talking about the people that get the best of you. Who gets the best of you? In relationships, where you're pouring your time, you pour your energy, you pour everything into it. You know it's a godly relationship. Are you really pouring enough time into it like you should? The ones that are going to help you, the ones that are going to take you to, the ones that are going to show you. It's time to organize our lives. It's time to organize our relationships and allow through David to teach us which ones should be filtered out without hurting anybody, because we're not here to hurt anybody. We're not here. We have compassion. We have love, but we do have to order our lives when it comes to relationship. Just like we order our lives at our home, our cars, everything in our lives, I think it's time to bring order to our relationships. And the next podcast, I'm going to teach you how to be a friend. I love you guys. I'm going to pray for you. Father, in Jesus' name, I pray for conviction right now. And I pray that you begin to convict people right now from this podcast. Everything that is out of order, everything that is not in order, everything that is not in place, inner circle, outer circles, that are so out of order that if they say they want one thing, but they're investing in other things, other relationships. Father, I pray today that there would be conviction. And above all, Father, I pray that they would begin to even organize their relationship with themselves. That some people, Father, that are out of order, even in their relationship with themselves, that they would learn to love themselves just like you love them, and that they would bring order even in their relationships with themselves. And I pray, Father, that you would begin to show them now so that we can bring order to all of our relationships, so that we can move towards success and we can thrive in all our giftings, thrive in this earth, and thrive in all the areas that God has asked us to thrive. And Father, I ask this in Jesus' name, amen and amen. I love you guys, and until next time, we will see you. Don't forget, next week, I'm going to teach you how to be a friend.